Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and buckle up, because today's story dives deep into the shadows where America's worst villains disappear. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and drop a comment if you want more dark, gripping crime tales that'll haunt your thoughts. In the cold, gray heart of Colorado, beneath towering peaks that seem to pierce the sky, lies a fortress unlike any other, ADX Florence. Known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, it's a place designed not just to contain, but to erase. A prison so ruthless, so secretive, that even the most dangerous criminals find themselves swallowed by its silence and concrete walls. It all started back in late October 1989. Chaos had reached a boiling point inside one of Colorado. As federal penitentiaries, violent riots tore through cell blocks. Guards were overpowered, and inmates ran rampant, driven by fear and fury. The government realized a new kind of prison was necessary, one that could neutralize violence before it even ignited. ADX Florence was born from that urgency, its architecture and routines forged in the fires of desperation. The prison's walls rise like a fortress, thick and unyielding, surrounding a compound designed for total isolation. Inside, inmates live in 7 by 12-foot concrete cells, soundproofed to mute the noise of the outside world and of each other. There are no group gatherings, no communal activities, no human contact beyond the bare minimum. This is a place built on silence, where conversations die before they can begin, and every second is a battle with loneliness. Imagine a car speeding through a winding mountain road. Its headlights cut through the night like knives. Inside, a man named David Reynolds clutches his phone, a desperate call for help slipping from his lips. He's a former federal investigator who has just uncovered something chilling about ADX Florence, something powerful forces want buried deep beneath the layers of concrete and secrecy. David's investigation began months earlier. He was assigned to what seemed like a routine case, but he started digging into mysterious deaths, unexplained incidents, and sudden transfers of high-profile inmates. Prison officials were tight-lipped, but whispers of ganged politics and unsanctioned hits inside ADX floated through the corridors of justice. Rumors suggested that the prison was no longer just a place for punishment. It had become a battleground for power, where shadowy alliances ruled. His breakthrough came from an anonymous tip that led him to a small, nearly forgotten file. The document suggested that some inmates were being moved under highly suspicious circumstances. The transfers weren't random. They were strategic, designed to isolate key players in a deadly game of survival and control. David knew he was onto something much bigger than a simple prison story. This was organized crime, weaponized within the walls of a supposedly impenetrable fortress. The deeper David went, the more danger he attracted. Threatening calls started coming in. His car was followed on lonely mountain roads. Yet he pressed on, driven by a sense of justice and the need to expose the hidden war raging inside ADX Florence. Inside the prison, tension was simmering. Inmates whispered in corners, aware that their fates might be sealed not by the law, but by the brutal code enforced behind bars. The guards were no strangers to violence, either trained to suppress and to silence, but not immune to the murmurings of corruption and fear. Then one night an inmate known only as the Architect, a man whose reputation for manipulation and control preceded him, disappeared from his cell without a trace. No alarms sounded. No guards reported any disturbances. The only clue was a faint smear of blood near the locked door, a silent message that something sinister had unfolded in the dead of night. David's investigation now had a ticking clock. He had to uncover what happened to the architect before the truth was buried beneath layers of stone and lies. As dawn broke over the Rocky Mountains, David arrived at a remote storage facility tied to the prison's logistics, a place where secrets were kept far out of sight. The building was cold, sterile, and guarded by more than just men with guns. Inside, rows of locked boxes and encrypted files hinted at a conspiracy reaching far beyond the prison walls. David's fingers trembled as he sifted through the evidence. Then, behind a false panel in the floor, he found it, a ledger detailing inmate movements, covert communications, and payments that suggested an internal economy controlled by unseen hands. Names were crossed out, replaced, and shuffled like chess pieces on a deadly board. But then a sudden noise shattered the silence, a heavy door slamming shut somewhere in the distance. Footsteps echoed, fast and heavy, closing in. David grabbed the ledger, his heart pounding. He knew he had just uncovered a secret that many people would kill to protect. And just as the door clicked shut behind him, plunging the room into darkness, he realized he was no longer safe. That morning, the air inside ADX Florence felt heavier than usual, thick with tension and the faint metallic scent of fear. Behind reinforced concrete walls, life unfolded in a harsh, predictable rhythm, cells locked tight, footsteps echoing down barren corridors, whispers buried beneath layers of oppressive silence. But today something had shifted. The disappearance of a mysterious figure known only as the architect had sent ripples through the prison, this invisible power structure, unsettling even the most hardened inmates and guards. David Reynolds had just barely escaped the cold trap of the storage room. The heavy door slammed shut behind him, a sinister reminder that the people he was up against didn't intend to let their secrets slip into the light. His mind raced as he moved through the shadows, clutching the ledger, the key to unraveling the complex web of corruption festering within the prison. Back in the outside world, the investigation was finally gaining momentum. David reached out to a trusted ally, FBI Special Agent Lisa Torres, a woman known for her sharp instincts and relentless pursuit of the truth. Lisa was assigned to oversee the growing case surrounding ADX Florence's internal chaos, but even she was unprepared for what the ledger revealed. It wasn't just a record of inmate movements. It was the blueprint for a secret economy controlled by powerful factions inside the prison schemes for contraband smuggling, orchestrated assaults, and most disturbingly, coordinated hits sanctioned by corrupt officials. The Aryan Brotherhood, the Mexican Mafia, and other ruthless groups weren't just surviving. They were ruling. Their reach extended far beyond the cells, infiltrating staff and manipulating the very system meant to contain them. Lisa's team began cross-referencing names, uncovering patterns that pointed to a chilling alliance between gang leaders and select prison officials. Payments were exchanged for protection and favors. Violence was meted out not as chaos, but as calculated moves in a deadly game of chess. Each attack was a message. Each inmate transfer, a strategic removal. Meanwhile, inside ADX, the inmates lived under a constant, suffocating threat. Fear was the currency, and loyalty was demanded without question. New arrivals were quickly assessed and pressured to choose sides aligned with one of the dominant factions or suffer the consequences. Those who resisted found themselves isolated, their cells plunged into solitary confinement where days stretched into endless, mind-numbing darkness. One such prisoner was Marcus "Ghost" Daniels. A former gang member turned informant, Ghost was a man trapped between two worlds. His eyes held stories of violence and survival, but also of regret and a deep-seated hope for redemption. He had recently refused to pledge allegiance to any group, and rumors swirled that he possessed knowledge that could dismantle the entire power structure inside ADX. David and Lisa knew Ghost could be the linchpin to cracking the case wide open. But getting close to him was a perilous task. The prison's silence was a fortress, and any breach could spell doom. Tensions inside the prison escalated rapidly. One afternoon, a brutal fight erupted in the recreation yard. Guards arrived just in time to break up the chaos, but the damage was done. Bloodied faces and shattered bones were a stark reminder that beneath the veneer of order, violence simmered like a powder keg. The fight wasn't random. Investigators later learned it was retaliation for a secret betrayal. Someone had leaked gang plans to federal authorities. The thin line separating survival from death had vanished, and paranoia spread like wildfire. David's pursuit grew more dangerous on the outside. Late one night, a car exploded in a quiet suburb outside Denver. The license plates matched those of one of Lisa's key witnesses, a former prison staffer who had agreed to testify. The message was loud and clear: silence or you're next. Despite the threats, David and Lisa pressed on, piecing together a mosaic of secrets that revealed a disturbing truth. ADX. Florence was less a prison and more a shadow government, where power was traded in whispers and blood. But as they closed in on the heart of the conspiracy, an even darker revelation surfaced. A confidential informant inside the prison reported a plan that chilled them to the bone, a coordinated attack designed to wipe out key figures who threatened to expose the truth. The clock was ticking, and the walls of ADX held their breath. The architect's disappearance was no accident. It was the opening move in a deadly game that could ignite a war. A heavy gray sky hung over the prison yard, a grim omen of what was to come. Inside ADX Florence, the air was thick with tension. The corridors whispered of impending violence, and even the guards felt the deadly balance shift. Agent David Reynolds was now deep in the eye of the storm. His meetings with an inmate, Marcus "Ghost" Daniels, were perilous but invaluable. Ghost revealed fragments of truth: how gangs manipulated staff, how coded messages were passed on everyday objects, and how prisoners moved like chess pieces in a high-stakes game. Ghost spoke of a secret pact between the Aryan Brotherhood and the Mexican Mafia, an alliance for survival and control. But this alliance had turned darker, orchestrating hits to eliminate anyone who challenged their power. Even more chilling, Ghost hinted at a mole inside the FBI, someone feeding information to the gangs, sabotaging investigations from within. Listening carefully, Agent Lisa Torres knew the mole could be anyone. The FBI team tightened security, but trust was fracturing. Every shadow seemed suspect. Back inside ADX, a violent storm was about to break. Prison leadership learned of Ghost's cooperation, and a chilling directive was issued: he must be silenced. One night, during the silent hours, an assault team struck. Shadows moved with deadly precision. dragging Ghost from his cell. A brutal struggle erupted, blood splattering against the cold concrete. David's informants warned him too late. When guards finally intervened, Ghost was barely alive, his body a grim testament to the prison's ruthlessness. The assault sent shockwaves through the investigation. It was no longer just about the truth, it was about survival. Lisa pushed forward, determined to expose the mole. She traced financial records and intercepted encrypted messages, piecing together a network of betrayal far deeper than anyone imagined. Meanwhile, within ADX, the fragile peace shattered. The alliance between the gangs began to fracture, as suspicion turned them against each other. David then uncovered a devastating revelation. An upcoming inmate transfer was actually a cover to move key gang leaders, but the timing coincided with a court hearing that could expose them. The prison was a powder keg. As the day of the transfer arrived, tension was palpable. Guards doubled their patrols, and cameras scanned every corner. Suddenly, a blackout plunged the prison into darkness. Chaos reigned. Alarms blared and violent fights erupted. It was a carefully orchestrated distraction. David realized too late the blackout was a deliberate cover for the gang's deadliest move yet, an attempt to assassinate key witnesses and seize control. In the pitch-black corridors, survival was everything. David and Lisa raced against time, piecing together clues, desperate to prevent more bloodshed. As the lights flickered back on, the carnage was clear, but the worst was yet to come. Hidden beneath the chaos, a new player had emerged, someone who had been pulling the strings all along, manipulating everyone. They thought the secrets of ADX Florence were buried, but in the darkness, power still whispered. If you thought this story was intense, hit subscribe and brace yourself.